It's official. Bungie has cooked. And out of the oven came some of the coolest gameplay we've seen from Destiny for a while. The new Prismatic Subclass lets you combine abilities from all of your light and darkness subclasses to create your own super custom build. What surprised me the most is when former community manager DMG on Twitter was surprised at the reveal. Now, this might not seem like much at first, but DMG was present at Bungie during the development of the final shape. What this probably means is that the creation of the Prismatic Subclass happened recently, most likely entirely during the period of the launch delay. After thinking about it a bit, and after reading Bungie's latest blog post detailing a bit about the new subclass, I think I have some answers to how the subclass was actually developed. As a live service game developer myself, I think I could pull back the curtain a bit and show you just how this might have been possible. Hey everyone, I'm Rizeki and welcome to my design analysis of the development of the Prismatic Subclass in Destiny 2. As always, thanks for checking out the video. If you enjoy the content, don't forget to drop a like on the video, and subscribe to get more weekly Destiny 2 design videos just like this one sent straight into your YouTube feed. So this video is going to be a bit different from my previous videos, in that I'm going to be discussing not the design of the game specifically, but the behind the scenes info that I can make a pretty educated guess about from my own experiences working in games as a job. Professionally, I am a gameplay programmer for a well-known live service MOBA. Because of this, I am very familiar with development schedules, the time and effort required to complete work, etc. To figure out the amount of work required for Prismatic, we need to first look at what we are actually getting as an end product. From the reveal livestream, I, like most people, thought we were getting the entire kitchen sink thrown at us. Combine any ability you want from any subclass with any other abilities and aspects from another subclass with almost no limits. This kind of system would be a lot of work to set up, and would most likely require a large-scale rework of most of the game's code. If Destiny's code for subclasses is similar at all to the way my game's backend is set up, then a lot of abilities are extremely interconnected. Here's an example. Let's make a playable character and call them Brian. Brian has 3 abilities: a passive, a basic attack, and a special attack. Brian's passive ability might do something like increase his basic attack damage when he uses his special attack. For this to work, his passive needs to know about his special ability and when it's used, but also needs to know when the basic attack causes damage in order to apply its own effect. All of these abilities need to be attached to Brian himself, and they need to know about each other in order to work properly. See how many connections are being made here? It's a bit tangled. Not spaghetti code, but very interconnected. Destiny subclasses are probably very similar. Abilities like your grenade or melee need to know which aspects you have equipped, which also then need to know about your fragments, weapons, exotic armor, etc. There's even more connections than what our friend Brian had. Again, it's not spaghetti, but very closely interconnected to ensure all abilities have access to all the information they need to function. There's 2 things that happen when we try to mix and match abilities between subclasses. For one, you might break a connection required for an ability to work. For example, let's look at Knock 'em Down on Solar Hunter. This aspect will refund your melee energy when defeating an enemy with your equipped throwing knife. But wait, my Prismatic build uses the stasis melee instead. It's not a throwing knife. Knock 'em Down no longer is able to interact with your melee ability because it doesn't see a solar melee. The other outcome could just be plain buggy behavior. This could be game crashing or cause unintended results. If you coded Knock 'em Down to check for just a melee kill, but you forgot to add a check for the correct melee type, you might try and access data that literally doesn't exist. For any of my C++ programmers out there, what happens when you access null or garbage pointer data? The program probably crashes, or at the very least, cutting and pasting abilities around would just not work because of assumptions made while programming or designing the ability. To be able to use the pre-existing abilities would require a complete regression of everything in the game, and honestly, would probably take at least a year, maybe longer, and would require a number of gameplay programmers to support it. In short, Limitless Prismatic would have been impossible to make within the delay timeline. The Bungie blog post, however, opened up about what we are actually getting with Prismatic. We are still getting a lot of subclass mixing options, but there is a curated set of abilities that are being given to each class rather than every existing ability. Hunters, for example, only get Shadow Shot, Snare Bomb, Magnetic Grenades, and Stylish Executioner from Void. Notably, we're missing Trapper's Ambush and Vanishing Step. This extends to the other subclasses as well. Okay, so with this in mind, we've now cut the number of included options down to probably half of what they were before, maybe even less. So with this in mind, let's talk about everyone's favorite topic, development cycles. For the game I work on, releasing a new character is about a 6-month process. 1 month for kit design and pitch, 1 to 2 months for prototyping, 1 to 2 months for full development, and 1 final month of polish. Parallel to this is the art teams working on VFX, sound effects, modeling, and 2D art. For a single character, we usually have about 1.5 gameplay programmers working on them at any given time. Not that we literally have half a programmer, that would be weird, but there is a primary programmer who is basically the lead of the project, and at least one other who is kind of a floater. They spend some time helping with character development, but also split their time to work on other things as well. Now, my game only has about 5 to 6 abilities per character. Destiny subclasses have at least 2 class abilities, 1 to 2 melees, 5-ish grenades, 3 to 4 aspects, and 2 supers. Fragments are shared, so I'll come back to these later. So, in total, we have about 15 abilities for a single subclass. That's a bit more work than a single character that I might work on. If a single programmer at my company could do 6 abilities in 2 months on average, so 1 ability per week in 3 to 4 weeks in a month, then 2 programmers could probably make an entire new subclass kit for Destiny, which is about 15 abilities, in that same time period. For all 3 classes to be done at the same time, Bungie would probably need 6 programmers focused solely on this for 2 to 3 months. We're kind of approaching the time limit on the delay window, so it still seems a bit challenging for them to have done it. But here's the thing, all these abilities already exist. Bungie devs just need to make copies of the existing abilities, clean up the code to fix the interconnected issue we talked about earlier, and they don't have to start from scratch. They're starting with at least half the work already done because they exist already. So with that, let's be generous and knock a month off of the development time, since we don't have to worry about prototyping. Now, at most, we are looking at 2 months of development for all 3 prismatic classes. And honestly, that's well within the delay timeline. For fragments, they are most similar to items in a MOBA, like in my game. These items are class agnostic, meaning any class could purchase them and have a consistent effect. If you take Spark of Resistance on Hunter, Warlock, or Titan, it doesn't matter. It will still give you your damage resistance no matter what. A lot of fragments are simple. Grant damage resistance when surrounded, apply more scorch stacks to targets, you get the idea. We could probably have a single programmer focus on working on fragments, with some help from floaters every once in a while. For my game, creating a slew of brand new items for a major release might take a month or 2 with 2 programmers working on them together. And this happens simultaneously to any new character developments as well. So for Prismatic, we would have 2 programmers focused on each class, 2 for Hunters, 2 for Warlocks, 2 for Titans, and then 2 more programmers working on fragments. In total, about 8 gameplay programmers. And that's not counting how some of them might just be floaters, so the actual required number might be smaller than that, especially when considering how many abilities are direct copies from other subclasses with small changes. All of this work would be complete within 2 months, with a third for polish and bug fixing. So the entire release delay time is accounted for there. Some other things to keep in mind are that some of this work may have started taking place before the official announcement of the delay, which could tack even more time on to the development process. There are also 2 other major additions to the final shape: the new enemy faction and the brand new exotic class items. Let's quickly talk about how these could be implemented in a short amount of time as well. The new enemy faction might be the most mysterious part for me, since my game doesn't use much custom AI. I'll give it my best shot though. I would imagine that most of the work here is actually wholly on the design and art teams. There are already a large set of existing enemy types in Destiny. To take one to highlight would be the Scions. In our new Dread faction, we have Attendants and Weavers, which Bungie has already stated are based on Scions. If this is actually the case, most of the enemy behaviors can be copied from the pre-existing Scion enemies, with new abilities equipped onto them. The design team may have tools to help create simple abilities without the need for programming support, so they might be able to create these new abilities all on their own for the most part. The biggest requirements here are honestly art and effects. Obviously, there needed to be new models, textures, animations, and visual effects for all of these new enemies, but since all of these teams are separate, they can work simultaneously for the most part. The class item is similar to our Prismatic Subclass development. Data was right in his reaction video to the reveal. Only allowing one exotic to be equipped is so baked into the code of Destiny that it's probably impossible to change all of the code to support it. It is what it is. But if you make a new exotic with multiple perks on it, well, that would work. It's not 2 exotics fighting, it's 1 exotic with 2 effects. And most of the work is again already done. Look at the code for Star Eaters, and copy-paste it to the new exotic with some slight changes to make it work properly. Probably only requires a couple programmers to work on it, and honestly, floaters could easily pick up a single effect creation task and quickly work on it after finishing a big feature like a subclass ability. Bungie was really smart with Prismatic. Not only is it a really cool subclass gameplay-wise, but it was a really smart use of resources during the lead up into the final shape. For many years, players have speculated about what the game would be like if you could mix and match abilities between subclasses, and they brought it to us. Gameplay is going to be king during this expansion, and the hoops Bungie went through to bring it into Destiny is insane. Although I've shown in the video how the development timeline is probably possible, it doesn't mean it wasn't tight or didn't come with its own challenges. I'm looking forward to being able to get my hands on all the new additions coming to the game in the final shape, and I hope Prismatic is every bit as broken and OP as I hope. But what do you think? Was Prismatic completely made from the ground up in the late stages of development? Do you think I was wrong about the amount of work required to make the subclass happen? Maybe you have specific questions about game development you want answered from someone in the industry. Let me know in the comment section down below or over in our Discord server linked in the video description. And if you liked what I had to say and want to see more, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and leave a like on the video. All of the support means a ton. But with all that said, I think I'm gonna go and play some Onslaught now. So, as always, I've been Rizeki, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.